What's up, YouTube? We are back, and technical difficulties again. To be honest, I'm not even sure why. So we're just gonna have to figure it out for another time. And but in the meantime, I could probably answer these questions myself that I had for her that I wanted to ask her. But there are a few in here I could definitely answer and hopefully share some value with you guys. And we also got a few people on Instagram watching as well. They got questions over there. Um, One day I want to be a father to my kids in the future. I don't know what to do about my dream job to help and provide my family. Well, I'm not a father, so I would not know the best advice for that. But one thing I would say is that your dream job, quote unquote dream job, will probably be something that you are excited to wake up to every that you're excited to wake up to every day. And what is that? I don't know. You got to figure that out for yourself. You got to explore. You got to try different things, meet new people, have different experiences, and you know, being a father. I wouldn't know anything about being a father, but someone or something I would want in a father is definitely someone who's honest, who's emotional, open, um, shares the important and positive values that they have adopted themselves. But yeah, man, it's all part of life. It's all part of a journey. You're gonna keep going. You're gonna keep learning, and you're gonna mess up. And that's just sometimes you just gotta rock and flow with life. That's just how it is sometimes. But so I'm gonna go on here and just answer some of the questions I was gonna have. That I did have for Noir, but um, so one question I have for her was, what do you do on a daily basis to support healthy mental and emotional health? And so obviously I had an answer for myself, and that was on a daily basis I meditate, I journal, and I do a lot of reflection. And I try to be. I think the key thing is being and staying aware, building an awareness to you know to the point where it's like I'm having these thoughts, I'm having these feelings, and but why? Why though? Why am I thinking like this? Why am I feeling like this? And even just saying why itself is powerful. So it brings you back. It's sort of like a time travel. That's how I've been explaining it. You time travel back into certain experiences in your life, whether it was your childhood or whether you were just younger or whether it was like a few months ago. You time travel, and your awareness allows you to really. Hold on, I'm gonna keep inviting her, see if it works. Your awareness really allows you to decipher and depict those questions that you have for yourself. So working on awareness daily is something I emphasize a lot. Meditation is what allows you to be aware, because if you for me, I do a lot of focusing on my breathing, mainly because I deal with anxiety, and being able to control my breath when in times of feeling unsure or feeling very anxious. I found that that's very helpful. And so So I lately I've been meditating like 3 times a day. As soon as I wake up in the morning, sometime halfway through the day, in the evening around like 3 o'clock, and then right before I go to sleep. I try to practice physically. I do something physical every day, whether it's physical intense exercise or I'm doing some type of yoga or tai chi. I always try to make sure my body is healthy. So um, the mental side of meditation, the body side of the physical side of exercising, and then emotionally, I feel like I feel like the journaling really helps emotionally, because sometimes where I might feel in some type of rut or situation, I or even if I'm feeling anxious or upset about something, I go to my journal and I dump all my thoughts onto paper, because something I have learned that's extremely important is getting getting those thoughts and those feelings out, because if you keep them in, it builds up and it seeps deeper and deeper into your being, into who you are, into your conscious, and soon it becomes subconscious. And you can't once it becomes subconscious, you're doing it without even knowing. So um, burying those feelings of sadness, suffering, pain, depression, anxiety, whatever it might be, that is having a significant impact on you, burying those deep into who you are can have a very significant effect on who you become in the future. And so I do my best daily to try to stay aware. I do my best daily to really allow myself to be who I am, feel who I am, learn and adapt. And so um, I feel like that's just extremely important to me, because there was a point in my life where I was I was like there are things that I am doing that I am not even conscious of. And the fact that I'm not even conscious of those things, it scared me. And there were certain things about myself that I was doing subconsciously that could be considered, negative or unhealthy. Right. Thank you for Noir for staying here and at least leaving some comments in here. Yeah, throw some questions in here, and I'll actually ask you some questions, and then we can just present it to the audience. We'll see how it works that way. Noir says that she agrees that it's important to it's important not to keep pushing your feelings away, and I agree with that. I've done so much of pushing those feelings away that now that my awareness has been built to such a point where it's like my mind isn't allowing me to ignore that stuff anymore. My mind, my body is not allowing me to ignore it anymore, and that I have to face it. And facing that stuff is hard, especially the feelings. Um, the feelings and the emotions or the experiences that you buried within yourself when you were a kid, where you didn't really have a choice to um, be conscious. You're strictly a subconscious being, and you're learning and you're being programmed. So during those moments of life, um, it's very important. And sometimes people are very unfortunate about the type of living situation they're in. But Noir, if you don't mind, if you could type in the chat, I had a question for you. What what have you learned about the importance of boundaries? If you don't mind typing that in the chat, go ahead, and I'll share your response with YouTube. Um, but yeah, so I found that to be, very important for my mental and emotional daily well-being. The yoga I have found to be very very relaxing body-wise, but I've also found it to be another form of meditation. And the same thing with Tai Chi. I look at yoga and Tai Chi as sort of on a similar scale, whereas you're combining your breathing or your awareness with body movement. And I was talking with a friend the other day, actually, and I was telling him about how I've implemented my breathing into my exercises. And think about it, like when you exercise, your heart rate rises. When you have anxiety, your heart rate also rises, and anxiety is something I deal with. So being able to, so I'm intentionally sparking an anxious feeling within my body when I do exercise. And being able to control my breathing when I do feel anxious is important. So when I exercise, I'm learning to control my breathing. But when I do have like an actual anxiety episode, I'm already programmed to know how to handle that because once my heart rate does rise when I feel anxious, I'm able to implement the practice of breathing of when I was exercising. You see what I mean? So it's like when you exercise and you practice the breathing at the same time, it really prepares you for when you do get very anxious about something. All right, so to reiterate, I asked Noir about the importance of boundaries, and she says, okay, boundaries, not having boundaries can leave you really emotionally drained and eventually bitter and resentful. You become resentful of others because they keep pushing your boundaries, and resentful toward yourself because you are not being there for yourself. I completely agree with what Noir said, and boundaries are important, and boundaries was something I didn't allow myself to have in the past, where I was always a yes man, or I was always looking for people to make decisions for me, or I was always looking to see what people thought was right for me. And a big part of my lack of boundaries was I didn't really accept myself for who I am. My acceptance was found through others. Right. Noir says, so it's basically like you've abandoned yourself and you're waiting for others to fix your problems. I completely agree. And I don't know about you in the past, Noir, but for me, I always looked for an outside source for a solution. I've always looked for someone to come and rescue me and save me, like it was a movie or something. And more recently, I've discovered that the only answers are found within. And in terms of setting boundaries, in any relationship, you need to be able to express what you are okay and what you are not okay with. If there's a certain topic that is sensitive or that triggers you, you need to be able to express like, hey, I don't want to talk about this right now because I'm still very sensitive to it. And a prime example, I was hanging out with a few people and we started talking about something that triggered me and has still had an effect on me, a week and a half, 2 weeks later. And so in that moment, I was like, that is a prime example of setting a boundary. If someone, most of the time people won't ask, they'll just talk. But if someone asks you, hey, can I talk to you about this? Or if they just start talking about something and it triggers you and it's beginning to make you start to feel some type of way, you need to be able to be like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with talking. I don't feel comfortable with talking about this right now. I understand where you're coming from, and maybe this is how you need to express yourself in the moment, but I don't feel comfortable with this. Um, Maybe we could talk about this another time. And for me, in that moment, I realized I was like, whoa, that was a boundary I was testing. I knew in my head I wasn't okay with having that conversation, but for some reason I still allowed myself to have it. Why? I don't know. Maybe I just didn't have the capacity or the courage to be like, I need to set this boundary with this person and not have this conversation. But now that I'm aware of it, and now that I've experienced it, and now I am, wouldn't say suffering the consequences, but I'm recouping the consequences of that conversation. I now realize that, cutting people in that moment and being like, hey, I don't want to talk about this. That's important. Noir says, but when you start having boundaries, you take back your power. Absolutely. You realize it's your own job to take care of yourself, to protect your energy, your time, and your emotional health. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Um, even setting boundaries like with my mother or family members, or even being able to say no to certain people and to certain things really, really helped. And for me in general, but I felt a sense of control. I felt a sense of acceptance within myself, and it felt so reassuring. So Noir, another question for you. What are some actually, before we get into that, I'm going to ask you this. What is inner child healing? Because that is a part of your brand, your page, what you call yourself. So I have an idea of it, but what exactly is inner child healing? I'll wait for you to respond, and I'm going to give the best answer I have, or the best information I have about that. So what I've learned about inner child healing is that you are basically giving yourself, your current self, you're basically giving your current self what you didn't have as a child. So if you went through something traumatic, whether it was neglect, abandonment, emotional dissonance, withdrawal from a parent, whatever it is you went through as a child, inner child healing is you are currently giving yourself what you didn't receive in the past. That's what I've learned about inner child healing. So if you felt you were emotionally neglected, you didn't have your emotional needs met, you are now reparenting yourself. You are doing your job to reparent yourself. And I've also learned that for people who aren't in healing their inner child, people who aren't even aware of what that means, those people are subconsciously projecting what they wish they seeked from their parent. They are subconsciously projecting what they wish they received from a parent, or what they didn't receive from a parent, onto relationships. And that's powerful. That's very powerful. So if you're in a relationship and you were emotionally neglected as a child, if you're in a current relationship, you might be emotionally neglecting your partner, or you might feel emotionally neglected as a partner, or you might be abandoning your own emotions in order to make sure that your partner is emotionally fit, or your partner is emotionally on point. But either way, it's unhealthy for you. It's unhealthy for the person you're trying to connect with, and yeah, it hurts. It sucks because sometimes you don't even know what you're doing. because it's all built into that subconscious. So Noir says, inner child healing is connecting with the child you were, being there for and then loving them unconditionally. So basically, you are you are a parent to your child self now, and start being aware of your little selves, your feelings, your thoughts, traumas that they are still stuck in. And by being there for yourself, you start healing. Exactly, exactly. Healing your inner child is basically being being there for yourself right now, because there are parts of who you were as a young child that was left behind and that was buried within your being, like we were talking about earlier, that was buried within your being that have not been addressed, parts of yourself that have not been addressed. So those parts of you that have not been addressed or have been buried within you and within your subconscious are now affecting you as an adult. And the whole scary part about it is that you aren't conscious of it. You're going through life like it's like this is a normal thing, this is who I am. And when I discovered that, it was like I just became very emotional about it. I became extremely emotional about how I was living my life, how the type of person I was, and because it all connected so very well. It all connected extremely well, and although it was extremely emotional, it was very inspiring and uplifting, because I knew, now that I was aware of my inner child and what happened to me back when I was younger. Nothing significant happened, but whatever I was going through as a child, and how I was presented, how I presented myself as a young adult, and then to who I am right now, and looking back at all of my personality traits, my characteristics, I was like, wow, it just makes sense. You know what I mean? Right. Noir agrees. Most of our lives, we have not been aware of it. And that's the scary part, because a lot of people go through their entire life without even knowing that. And they continue to seek external solutions, when in reality, you just got to give yourself a little more love, and that's within yourself. The solution is within you. Noir, what are some action steps for a beginner who wants to start healing their inner child? What can you do as a beginner to start healing your inner child? Take your time with that comment and let me know. For me, what I did was I began doing inner child healing meditations. And that is basically where you get into a meditative state, and then you start to this is what I did. You get into a meditative state, and then you go back into a time. In the meditations, sometimes it was like a nice open meadow field, and other times, other meditations would tell me to go back to my childhood home. And within these meditations, within these visions, you would then picture yourself as a child. And so you walk up to your child, and you pretty much spend time with yourself, your wounded child. You pretty much spend time with them, and then you begin telling them the things that they didn't hear as a kid. You begin giving them those things that they weren't given as a child, whether that's love, acceptance, whether it's you tell them that you're proud of them, of who they are, where they're going. You're telling them that they're creative, that they're worthy, that they're enough, whatever it might be that you feel like you missed, the needs that you are missing. You go into your mind and you find yourself. You find your younger self, and you begin giving your younger self the things that your current self is missing. So in reality, it's pretty much like you're just talking to yourself, but in your mind, you're talking to a wounded child um, who needs certain things to be considered a healthy adult. So Noir says, inner child guided meditations are very helpful. I have to say here that it's important to not give up if you couldn't connect to your inner child right away. Yep. It took me some time to be able to. And then she goes on to say, so if you've spent your whole life separated from yourself, it's normal to take some time to establish the connection. I agree. So just be patient and keep trying. I agree 100%. Um, some people look at meditation as superficial, and for them personally, it feels like it doesn't work. But you got to understand, meditation is a holistic practice, and it's not going to happen. You're not going to see results or benefits right away. These practices are more long-term benefits, whereas in today's medicine, especially in the U.S., you're just given a temporary solution, a quick temporary solution. But that's not what meditation is. And Noir says, one of the things that really help as well is to always validate your inner child emotions and allow the feeling to flow before you can release it. Allow the feeling to flow before you can release it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And pretty much what she's saying there is to sit with your feelings and not judge how you're feeling. To really sit with how you're feeling. Literally, just sit with how you're feeling with no judgment about why you're feeling this way, about how you should be feeling a different way. It's really just embracing that feeling. Whether you need to cry, you need to scream, you need to be angry, you need to hit something. If you do hit something, make sure it's something soft. But if you need to write an angry letter or something, whatever it is, allow yourself to feel that. And then when those emotions pass, when those feelings pass, start doing some deep diving and really try to figure out where the root of that comes from. Really try to figure out where the root of that comes from. Noir says to keep saying words of love and support yourself. Absolutely. And the first time I did inner child healing meditation, I cried. It was so powerful. I cried. And every time I do it, I still tear up a little bit. But the first time I did it, I cried. And it was because that was the first time that I was being told things about myself that I have never been told before. And I was so focused on finding those needs or finding those affirming statements and words from someone else. I was so focused on that. Especially whether it was from women or father figures, whatever it was, I was so focused on finding those needs from the outside. But once I started looking inside, I really started to feel it. And now, being more connected with my inner child, I am really allowing myself to be emotional. If I need to cry, I tell myself, Tyree, it's okay to cry, and I allow myself to cry. If I'm angry, I allow myself to be angry. But the important thing is I don't stay there. If I'm angry, I allow myself to be angry in that moment. And as soon as it's gone, it's gone. I don't allow myself to be there, or I don't try to push it away because it'll just come back. Or if I need to cry, I don't suck it up, and I don't keep it in because that'll just keep building. That'll just keep building up. Noir says, I can totally relate to crying during the meditation. It's very powerful. It is very powerful. I agree so much. Noir, another question for you. What would you say is the best way to deal with triggers? For me, I'm still really working on that. When I get triggered, I'm aware of when I'm triggered, but I haven't gotten to the point where I'm taking action on those triggers. Sometimes, sometimes my triggers really overwhelm me, and I just do my best to, try to forget about it and get rid of it. But I'm still working on that, and so um, Noir, for you, maybe there's something you do that helps you to deal with triggers. Because for me, I still have a problem. Just like I was saying earlier, when there was a conversation I knew I was not okay with having, I still allowed myself to have that conversation, even though I knew it would trigger me, and it still has an effect over me like a week and a half later. And so that's something about me that I'm still really having a difficult time with. But but yeah, let me know what you think about triggers. So Noir says, explore them further. Triggers are messages to what's going on in your subconscious. So taking a deep breath, noticing the feelings, noticing how it feels in your body, and asking yourself questions. Like when I did feel like this for the first time. Oh, that's another sentence. That makes sense because my therapist told me that. My therapist told me that. To really just, when you do feel triggered, to really sit with it. And the thing about when I get triggered, I get very unsettled, and I just have a feeling within me that I feel like I need to get rid of. I don't know if that's how you guys feel. Whatever you do get triggered by, but I know what you're going through, and so that's hard for me to really sit with that. But I've seen the power when I have sat with those feelings. So a prime example, a few months ago when I did get triggered by something, I was like, you know what, Tyree, sit right here and feel that right now. And so I did. And my body wanted so much to get up and to do something to get rid of the feeling. And I just had such an unsettling feeling. But I closed my eyes and I just sat with it. And I just began crying. I just began crying so much because that's what my body needed. My body needed a release instead of just holding. That's where that tension comes from holding it in. That's where that unsettling feeling comes from holding it in. And so I still have a very hard time with that, even till this day. And so that's something I'm still working on. Noir says, I think this is our first instinct to really avoid the feeling any way we can. It's been this way for me in the beginning as well. I'm glad you pointed that out. That is instinct to the max, because think about it in a biology, a biological aspect. Whereas instinctively we are animals. Our biological body is an animal. It's a machine. And it does what it needs to do to survive. If you think about any animal, they do what they need to do to survive and make sure their species they make sure their species last, so they reproduce. And so instinctively, as humans, our body does things for us to survive. And so I don't want you guys to think that your body or your mind is out to get you, because that's not the thing. It's just doing what it needs to do to survive. And so think about it like this. When your body gets reminded of something you might have experienced in the past that it did not like, it goes into survival mode, and you start to get this feeling that you felt in the past. Once you get that feeling, your body's like, no, push it away, push it away, push it away. And those sensations, those physical feelings you get sent to the mind, and it's like, I don't like feeling like this. I need to forget about it. I need to avoid it, and I need to push it away. So you're completely right. Like, that's completely based off of instinct. And so for me, on a personal point, I'm looking to really battle that instinct, or wouldn't say battle it. I would say observe the instinct, and not succumb to the instinct, and look at it exactly for what it is, an animal. So yeah, like you were saying, especially at first, you have to do intentional, but allowing the feeling to be. Subconsciously, you are still stuck in the past. So when you're triggered, it is not your conscious mind who is in charge. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for reminding me about that. When you are triggered, it is not your conscious who is in charge. It is your subconscious who is in charge at the moment. That makes so much sense, because when I get triggered, my first initial thought is to push it away, or to forget about it, or get rid of this feeling. Whereas consciously, when I am conscious of my triggers, my first initial thought is to sit with it, to feel this. If you need to cry, cry. You know, if you need to yell, do that. So it's a fine line between being aware, being conscious, being unconscious, and being controlled by the subconscious. All right, my laptop sounds like it's about to explode. So I think we'll do one more question here. We'll do one more question here, and then we'll end it. So Noir, have you ever heard of the Dark Night of the Soul? And if so, what is it? What is the Dark Night of the Soul? What I've learned from the Dark Night of the Soul is that it was this old, I think it derived from like some religion. So this old religious concept. And the point of it being like, it's very complex. It's a very complex thing. The point of it, the Dark Night of the Soul, is that you have come to terms with, I wouldn't say come to terms, but you have brought to light the things about, you have brought to surface things about yourself that have been affecting you over the course of your life. So like I was saying earlier, it got to a point where once I figured out a lot of the things that I was doing subconsciously, it made me extremely emotional. And it made me very hopeless. It made me feel very weak, depressed, anxious, whatever it might be. And to my extent, that's what I know about the Dark Night of the Soul, is when you get into this dark area of knowing so much about how you lived, or even you might feel unsure about yourself. You might feel very unmotivated. And for some reason deep inside you, you just feel completely loss of passion. And that is your body screaming to be heard. That is your body and your conscious, your awareness screaming to be heard. It's like regurgitating all of those things you've pushed down over the course of your life. It's regurgitating those, and it's wanting to come out and to come out. And so the Dark Night of Soul is this place where you get into yourself, and it's a very dark area. It was hard for me, and sometimes I still find myself, crawling my way out. But that's what I know, and I know there's probably more interpretations of what it is, but that was my interpretation of it. Noir says, "Yep, I think when you start healing, you will come across it at some point. I've read many explanations of it, and I think people have different meanings for it. Exactly, there are very many different interpretations of it. For me, I see it as the time where you're in between, like you're saying. You're aware. I like that. You're aware of all the needs to be healed, but you don't know how to heal it yet or what to do about it. I love that. It's the right in between of when you weren't conscious at all, and then where you are completely aware of who you are. Like you're in the right in between, and you're kind of like going back and forth, and you're really trying to figure out who you are, what makes you tick, and why you don't feel motivated, why you don't feel passion. Noir says sometimes you don't even know that you can heal yet, and you feel desperate, but it is your soul pushing you to heal and remember your true self. Perfect. It is your soul. I like that. It is your soul taking you out of the current state that you're in. And like I was saying earlier, it's like your body and your mind regurgitating all of the things you've pushed down, you've avoided, you've tried to ignore. It's your mind and your body regurgitating all of that out. It's your soul really trying to push you towards that light of not suffering anymore. I really like that. Sometimes you don't even know that you can heal yet and you feel desperate, but it's your soul pushing you to heal and remember your true self. I like that a lot. That's cool. Yeah, it's real cool. And some people would describe the dark night of the soul as like a spiritual awakening or any type of awakening. A lot of people um, say that going through this experience is very hard. It's extremely hard. And the amount of time that you are going through this experience really depends on who you are as a person, how aware you allow yourself to be through the process. And they say when you come out of it, it's like you're a completely different person. You're at a completely different light. Um, and they say that you are spiritually awakened. And for me, I was so drawn towards timelines and deadlines of when things will be okay or when things will be the right way. And something that my therapist has really helped me learn is that, Tari, you don't need to put a timeline on anything. So something I've really made myself aware of and something I've really adopted is the idea of not putting a timeline on my healing, not putting a timeline of my journey through this dark night of the soul or my journey through just my journey in general. Um, and I just reminded myself that you will be okay when you are okay. Right now, you might not be okay, but that's fine. And that's a reminder to you and to you that what you're going through is cool. Let it happen. Learn about yourself and your experiences. But you don't need to have a specific date on when you're going to be 100% fine. There's nothing wrong with how long it takes you to be okay with who you are. Mars says, "Yep, and I think it is. But you're going through it, and it is hard, and you might not see the light at the end until you decide you're going to make it. You have everything you need in you. Exactly. Oh, that's perfect. You have everything you need within you, and you're not going to see that light until you decide that this is where I'm going." That's so true. I love that. I love that. Well, Noir, I am gonna end it here, and it sucks that we didn't. This didn't go the way we wanted it to. Um, two of us on the same screen, having this awesome discussion. And I hope we can collab again sometime in the future, because I would really love to do that. And hopefully we don't have technical difficulties. But I appreciate you staying on here anyways and answering some of the questions I had for you. But yeah, I really hope we can do this again the real way. And thank you for all the value you share. Thank you for your page and your daily content. Make sure, if you guys are watching the rerun of this on IGTV or wherever it is, make sure to go follow Noir on our Instagram page. That's NAWWAR_SHMAYES. So make sure to go follow her. She posts pretty often, and I learn a lot from what she shares. So make sure to go follow her and look for us in the future, because we are gonna get this down, even though the universe wasn't in our favor today with this Instagram live. I believe we'll be able to get it sometime again, so let's plan for that. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. YouTube. That did not go how I wanted it to go, but sometimes that's how life does it to you. That's completely okay. So if you made it to the end and you are watching the rerun of this, I really hope you enjoyed this little makeshift live stream. And I hope to, get Noir on here legit next time. And I'll do my part to figure out the technical difficulties on the end. But if you like this video, you got some value from it, you enjoy the content, make sure to give it a like. And I don't have a comment for you to leave. Actually, leave a comment down below and let me know what self-healing means to you. If you're new to Ty Speaks, make sure to hit that subscribe button over here, over there, somewhere down there. Make sure to hit it. And of course, stay on point in this peacefully chaotic world. Peace. I'll see you guys in the next video.